It's 7:03 on Monday, May 12th, 2014. Let me call the Booth Bay Harbor Selectmen's meeting to order. Please join me in standing and pledging allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. It is our wont, we will introduce ourselves. We have Kelly Bigos, our recording secretary, Tom Wooden, town manager, and select persons Russ Hoffman, Denise Griffin, and new select person Wendy Wolf. Congratulations and thank you. And I'm Bill Hamblin. Our first order of business at this meeting, which is the first after the annual election, is to elect a new chair and vice chair of the select board. I have been chair for the last 2 years. I've been privileged to be chair for the last 2 years, and while I am very proud of what we've accomplished in that time frame and made, I think, great strides in the working waterfront and the fish pier and some of the town infrastructure, and even in the way we conduct our meetings, I think has improved. I think 2 years is long enough, and I think it's good to have some rollover and some new ideas, or at least different ideas. So I'm not going to be running for chair in the future. Having said that, I will open the floor for nominations. I will nominate Denise Griffin for chair.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any
How does she
discussion?
feel about it?
Moving right along.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
It's 3 votes, and that is all it takes. Congratulations,
Congratulations.
Madam
Setup,
Chairperson. We also need to elect a vice chair, and then I'm going to change chairs with you. So, do we have nominations for vice chair?
Can we nominate somebody who
Yes,
isn't here?
I
We
was
can.
going to ask a point of order if,
We can.
Yeah.
Jay was going to be here, and but we got a call about an hour and a half ago that he had an emergency. He was not going to be able to attend, but I have spoken with him, and I think a nomination of Jay would be in order.
so moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that Jay Warren be the vice chair. Any discussion?
He's mood on the
I
point.
think he likes the Seeing none, all in favor?
Okay.
It's unanimous. So now we have a new chair and vice chair, and I will turn the
Oh,
gavel
wow.
over to you.
Gee, thanks. Okay. So the next order of business is to approve the minutes of our last meeting, which was held on April 28th.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any discussion or amendments? No? Seeing none? All in favor?
And I'll
Great.
abstain
You
since
were
I
not
wasn't
here.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. All right, the next order of business is financials, and I'll turn the floor over to Julia Latter.
Okay, you have your revenue and expense sheets, revenue totaling $7,085,572.31. And total expenses year-to-date, $6,248,446. Does anyone have any questions on the revenue or expenses?
I think we're looking pretty good.
We are, after tonight, the warrant posting of $375,746.96 will close in that gap of what we've been budgeted for expenses year-to-date compared to last year.
So that other than timing, we are tracking last year
We are.
very, very closely.
There's a few state payments outstanding, but working on those to collect before fiscal year end, so.
A question which may not be germane to tonight's numbers, but part of the town budget that we voted this year, we agreed to pull out some money to offset taxes. When does that happen?
After the books close.
Okay.
We're gonna do those journal entries. That's actually for next fiscal year.
Right.
That's right, it's for next fiscal year,
Yeah, so
so,
we'll see those after June 30 of 2015.
so between the June 30 report and the July
And
1
then-
report, we will see a drop in our general fund.
You will, we'll
Okay.
offset that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I think the assessors and Tom use it against the commitment as well
Yeah.
in those figures, so.
To lower the property tax.
And the bank balance as of today is $2,747,399.
Okay, I think we're in good shape. Great, thanks. All right, Tom, town manager announcements.
Thank you. Last Tuesday, Jody and I and Dave Benner met with Danielle Betts over at the former basketball courts, former tennis courts over by the high school. And she's going to be producing a few drawings, a couple of different concepts of possible scenarios for putting in basketball courts out there and rearranging the parking, changing the sidewalk around, putting in a green belt that continues down the meadow to improve the look of the gateway. So that's in the works. I expect to hear something from her in the next couple of weeks. Also, I met with some representatives from Bike Maine at the school field last week to talk about the logistics of setting up the village for the event and where electricity would be, where water would be, where sewer would be, where the tent city itself would be. Then we went down to the footbridge parking lot to look over that, to measure that, make sure it was a large enough area for them and had all the necessary utilities down there for that, and that site seems to be perfect for them as well. So things are going on behind the scenes as far as putting that together. And the only other thing I wanted to mention tonight is that the next meeting falls on Memorial Day, so we might want to do this on Tuesday the 27th.
That's our standard practice, so
Right.
I think let's plan to do that unless anybody has a major issue with that.
That's all I
As
have.
long as we have a quorum. Sound good
Yep.
with you, gentlemen?
Sounds
Sounds okay?
That's good.
Okay. We'll take
I'll
a
let you
date,
know, yeah.
the 27th.
That works.
Great, good, okay. The
That's all I
27th it is. All right, so just refresh my memory, Bike Maine is a weekend in September?
It's a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's
Oh,
the
Wednesday,
10th,
Thursday,
10th,
Friday.
11th, 12th. The bikers arrive on the 10th. They have a layover day here on the 11th, and then they leave Friday morning the 12th.
Okay, and we're
So-
gonna pray for good weather.
I hope so, but they learned from last year. They're bringing tents for everything this time. So they said rain or shine, it'll be much more comfortable than it was last year.
Okay, good.
Question.
Yes,
So,
Russ.
Tom, does that mean that at our next meeting, we would look at Danielle's concepts?
I would hope so. I would hope
Okay.
so. I mean, I don't know what kind of workload she has right now, but I was under the impression it would be a week to 10
Yeah.
days or so
Okay.
before she'd get stuff to me. So
Okay, yeah, good.
I think it's pretty likely.
It's great. Okay, let's move on to public license hearings. All right, so we should have a, I don't know, I have 3 stapled things here. We will, shall we take the Class H Fisherman's Wharf Inn victualer's license first?
Move we approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the victualer's license for Fisherman's Wharf. Does anybody have, want any discussion on this topic?
Why is this a new application? Since I'm pretty sure Fisherman's Wharf has served food before.
It's a renewal, yeah. It's not a new one.
It says new, and new is what's checked on the application.
Maybe different owners?
Because of what?
If you miss the,
Violent.
Oh, because they missed the filing date, so they had to okay.
That's why it's separate.
I didn't know that.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Do I have let's see, we had a motion on the floor, so all in favor? Motion carried. Okay, so the next one here is I have a renewal for a liquor license for Booth Bay Region House of Pizza.
I don't believe I have a copy of that.
Do you have a copy?
I can share.
I'll just look over.
That's
your
all right. Aren't these the ones that the chief usually
Yeah,
initials?
this is missing the chief's one. So I
Yeah.
move we approve upon the police chief's review and acceptance.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor? Okay, motion carries. Okay. Now, we have a huge list. Very huge list.
I move we take these by class.
Okay.
Second.
All right, all in favor of taking these by class?
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries. So we will start with Class B, victualer's license. And the group of Class B consists of Hannaford, Oak Creek Provisions, Circle K, and Gimbel and Sons Country Store. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve those.
Second.
May I have a point of clarification? Since I haven't had a chance to memorize the code book yet, since I just received it, I'm wondering if, for my benefit, you can tell me the difference between like Class B, C, what
B-
differentiates
B
these?
is incidental for food prepared and sold in a retail outlet whose primary business, as evidenced by the proportional floor space, is other than a victualler. No on-premises consumption, whereas Class C is specialty single item or related items sold to the public, bakeries, ice cream shops, so forth and so on. Oh,
Okay,
so Class B, incidental food prepared and sold in a retail outlet.
great. I
Wendy,
understand.
just so you know, it's on the back of the licenses, so I'll photocopy one of these for you so that you'll have it for
Okay,
future meetings, to know what all the different classes are.
great, thanks.
So,
And Wendy, 1 year ago tonight, I asked the same question. So
That's good to know I have a year to memorize it, so.
maybe we should test you and you can tell us what the next definitions are.
I wouldn't have made it.
Actually, if you put the cheat sheet here,
Yeah.
I'll educate myself as we go through them, so.
Okay, so, anyway, now I think I've lost track. Are we all in, any
Comment.
discussion on Class B license? Public, you can chime in or raise your hand. I will recognize you. No, okay. All in favor of the Class B? Okay, motion carries. Okay, Class C, which is the specialty single item or related items such as a bakery or an ice cream shop, etc. Class C consists of Finn McCool's, Coastal Maine Popcorn, Curtis House, Down East Candies, Down East Ice Cream Factory, Orange Candy Store, and Hometown Convenience. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? No. No? All in favor? Okay. We have only one for Class D. I think it's Dutton's Doghouse. I think that's pretty self-explanatory what that is. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Class E, the Opera House. We all know what that is. Class E is for cooked food prepared outside and consumed on the premises.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Class F, there's a big list here. Class F is a facility serving breakfast, lunch, or both. And they are Admiral's Quarters Inn, Atlantic Arc Inn, Bayside Inn B&B, Blue Heron Seaside Inn, Bridge Street Cafe, Greenleaf Inn, Harbor House Inn B&B, Harborage Inn, Howard House, Nana's Place B&B, Surlamer Inn, and Topside Inn. Do I hear a motion?
Move that we approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, motion carries. Class G, which is full, a facility serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And the three in this group are Baker's Way, Captain Fish's Dockside Grill, and St. Andrews Village. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Very quiet group tonight. All in favor? Motion carries. Class H, facility serving at least one cooked meal per day, which is also licensed to serve malt, Venus, and spirituous liquors. So Class H consists of, oh boy, this is the big list. Andrews Harborside, Blue Moon Cafe, Boathouse Bistro, Boothbay Harbor Inn, Boothbay Harbor Yacht Club, Boothbay Lobster Wharf, Boothbay Region House of Pizza, Brown Brothers, China by the Sea, Chowder House, Inc., Ebb Tide, Gallery Gatherings and Events, Kaler's Crab and Lobster House, Lincoln Bay Resort, Mama D's, McSeagle's, Mine Oyster, Mr. C's, Pier 1 Pizza, Ports of Italy, Red Cup Coffee House, Rock Tide Inn, Spruce Point Inn, Thistle Inn, Tugboat, Welch House, Whale's Tail. Do I hear a motion?
Move that we approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question. So this is why did we have Boothbay House of
Liquor
Pizza?
license.
But this,
This is a victualer's license, but the Class H is someone who serves
Includes
food
a-
and liquor. And liquor makes it a Class H.
but you need a separate liquor license
Yes.
as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? All in favor? Motion carries. And the last one, Class I, snack bars and movie theaters. So I guess you all know what this is going to be, the Harbor Theater. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. So we're done with the public license hearings, unless I missed some. Okay. Ongoing business. We would like Bill to report on comprehensive plan status.
I suggested that we put this on the agenda because the comprehensive planning effort is going into the home stretch, and I thought it was appropriate for the select board to know what was going on and for the public to know what was going on, so give it a little bit more visibility. We had a meeting on May 8th, which is a public informational meeting held here about I will say the bulk of the statistical data and some strategies for future planning, but it was not the draft for public review and comment. But it was not the entire document, and I'll speak more to that in a second. And basically, Bob Faunce, who is the consultant and the county planner hired by Boothbay Harbor to help facilitate our plan, went through the various sections, and there are, I forget how many, 12 or 13 sections, and these are mandated by state law, what the sections actually are. And they speak to the history and to the waterfront and to the natural resources and so forth. And those were all pretty straightforward. One reason I wanted to bring it in front of the group, though, is because the item that's going to be worked on next and that will be also available for public review is really, I think, critical to the town of Boothbay Harbor, and that's something called the Future Land Use Plan. And the Future Land Use Plan is just that. It is a plan for how we will, in the future, use our land in Boothbay Harbor, and specifically how it will be zoned and what changes may come in the zoning. And I think it's fair to say that that document is still very much in flux, and there's been spirited discussion among the committee members and the consultant as to what that should entail, in part because the one goal for the comprehensive plan is that it be determined to be consistent with the state, I'm looking for the right set of words, Management Growth Act. Maine law requires that a local zoning ordinance align with a comprehensive plan that is consistent with Maine's Growth Management Act. The Maine Growth Management Act is a state law, And it has various things in it, and two of the things that are in it is it says that each town must identify a rural zoning area and what actions the town will take to limit development in that area and to divert development to the, quote, growth areas of the town. That gets a little, for me personally, that gets a little hard in Booth Bay Harbor because while we have some tracts of lands that are not fully developed, it would be hard to call them rural since the rural in the state definition often has to do with farmland and open pastures, and we don't have very much available farmland in town. We do have some tracts that are in state forestry, and you probably know more about that than I. And these tracts are already in the forestry. But anyway, there's an ongoing discussion about what this future land use plan should be, what it should entail, and how we might meet the state mandates, or whether we need to meet the state mandates. And that'll be discussed at our next meeting on May 22nd, which is a committee meeting of the land use of the Comprehensive Planning Committee. And then there is currently scheduled a public review meeting on June 12th at 6 p.m. here in the town office for the public comment on that. The Comprehensive Planning Committee meetings are of course public, but the public is not entitled to comment or participate. So you can come and see what's going on, but you can't comment. But on June 12th, we will hope and desire public comment on this, because I think it's important for our town. I think the more people we can get involved, the better. So that's kind of where we stand.
And then what would you envision being acted upon?
Well, the process, and help me out, Tom, here, because I'm not entirely, after we go through this give and take, and let's say we presume on a future land use plan that everybody thinks is reasonable and agreed upon, it would come before town meeting for a vote, and it'll be next town meeting. And if approved, it would then go to the state for review, and the state would either find it consistent with the Management Growth Act or not consistent with the Management Growth Act. And if it's not consistent, then I presume they would ask us to either make changes, and we would either make changes or say, no, we're not going to do that. And so that's the process as I understand it.
Assuming everything goes right along the lines, then we're talking about a year and a half out probably.
Yes, we're talking, I think we have a year to work on this.
So in the interim then, the existing documents would basically, the ones we operate on, basic.
Yes. Yes, we are not operating under any new plans at this point in time.
Okay.
Anything
No,
to
that's
add?
accurate. No, that's fine. That's good.
So Bill, may I ask, since this is a highly concentrated town with relatively little, rural is also defined as population density per square mile. Is there an option within state law for municipalities to make the case that this does not apply to them?
It's very interesting. Under the state law, and I have a copy of it, and I have a copy of a document they've issued to help you meet the state law. There are two parts. There's this rural part, there's also a growth part. There are three different scenarios where they waive the requirement for a town to have a growth area. There is no mechanism to waive the requirement that there be a rural area. And one of the questions we have for the consultant, what do towns like Portland do? I mean, there's got to be some, you're right, I mean, there's got to be some mechanism for mitigating this thing. And there are strategies that we could pursue. We could declare that our current residential zone is in fact our rural zone, and that we already have protections there, and the state may like that or not like that, I don't know. But to answer your question, I haven't found any in the state law that says, here's how you would mitigate if you don't have any rural areas.
Okay, thanks.
Which annoys me a little bit.
Okay, so June 12th is a key date,
Yes,
and that's will be the meeting for public comment.
yes,
Okay, and that's a Thursday evening?
Yes.
yes.
Okay,
Do we know what time?
6 o'clock.
okay, great. Good, we hope we see people here at 6 p.m. on the 12th. All right, moving on to new business. We have a Central Maine power pole permit. which I don't have any paperwork on. But
I have it.
I have the original.
good, all right. Would one of you two like to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that comes up from time to time when CMP wants to replace a pole, even though they probably have a utility easement and can do it without our permission. But they're asking for our permission to replace pole, the 10th pole on Route 96 as it heads from Hannaford out towards East Booth Bay. They've already done some work out there, out by the Giles Road. So each time they replace a pole, we get a request for the municipal officers to sign off that it's all right. So that's what this is. And it would be put in virtually the same location as the existing pole to the best that they can do. So,
Okay, sounds reasonable. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? We'll sign that after the meeting if it needs to be signed. All right. And the next order of business is Deputy Harbormaster appointment.
yes, well, as you know, we've been running an ad for a while to find a deputy harbor master. And Nick and I have gone through the applications, and we believe the best suited applicant for the position is actually one of the retired police officers that we had, Rich Morably. Rich retired last fall, and he's come back for the summer and would like to have a summer job. And he was an officer with us for 13 years, so he has a law enforcement background, and he is a boater. But Nick's going to show him how to operate the harbor master boat. And so, you have anything you want to add, Nick?
I just believe he's a really close people person. He was when he was a police officer with the community, and I think he'll do very well and have a very good adjustment out on the water with the people that are coming and going from the town.
So I would ask the board to appoint Rich Morably as our deputy harbor master.
Great. Do we have a motion?
I move we appoint Rich Morably as our deputy harbor master.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a question. Again, since I am not a police person, what's the translation of land law versus marine law? And is there a training process to help bring the deputy harbor master up to speed for
Well,
marine?
what there is, and what he'll end up having to do next year is he goes to a basic harbor master school that takes place up in Castine. The water laws are Title 12 laws, and they're marine laws. The way they're done, the way they're enforced, the way their summons written, or anything else is the same as if you were on land as a police officer. They're just in a different title and section of the law book.
Great. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay. No other discussion? Questions? All right, seeing none. All in favor?
Thank you. Thank you.
Have your deputy. Executive session?
Maybe.
All right. After the agenda was written, we did have an email with some updated job descriptions. I have not had a chance to read them, but if you all have,
I have
we
no.
can certainly.
I have, and the department heads have repeatedly. So they are for town clerk, finance officer, code enforcement, assistant tax collector, and the assessing assistant. So it's primarily the administration part of the town.
Okay.
So the department heads have looked through these, I've looked through these, they all seem to be very accurate, so we have no problem with you adopting them.
All right. I haven't had a chance to read them, but have you all had a chance to read them?
No.
No. I
I
think.
haven't either.
All right. You haven't either. Let's
No
postpone
rush.
this to next.
Yeah,
Okay.
we just.
Give us a chance to read them, and then I'm sure we can approve them.
Great.
So,
May I ask a question?
yes, you may.
I did look through them, and I think they're fine. The question I had was the way they're clumped is the way we have been operating, and specifically, let me just use as an example, under code enforcement, it's also plumbing inspector, building inspector, and health officer. Now, there was a time when we had separate plumbing inspectors from the code enforcement officer. Will these job descriptions make it difficult if we want to do that again?
No, I mean, I think if we were to go back to that setup out here, we'd probably extract this out and create a separate job
Okay.
description.
Okay.
But, and when we talked about that when we were going through it, we
Yeah.
might as well write them as they're being done now.
That's fine, I just want to make sure we're not boxing ourselves in a corner.
No, it doesn't
Okay.
do that.
I'm happy.
Good. So let's move on to public forum. We have a nice group from the public today. There
I'd like
must
to
be
bring
some
up,
issues.
we were in here a couple of months ago about a proposed parking lot for Campbell Street. And whether it's a misinterpretation of the code enforcement officer, whether he was doing the right thing or not, I'm not sure. The legal advice that we hired said that it was wrong, that he shouldn't have given him permission without running it before planning board approval or anything. So we've drawn up a petition that I'd like to present to you, if you guys could look it over and see whether it's gonna go to the planning board or whoever it would be to try to change something like that ever happening again. We're in a special residential neighborhood, and just to put a 32-piece parking lot in there just doesn't seem reasonable. And Jeff went ahead and, told them that they could go do that without any approval, that he didn't need it. And I just think it's a little bit wrong, and it could be looked into. If we could do some kind of change to it some way. If you would like to look this over, we got a few signatures. If you could look it over and see what you think.
Sure. Maybe while you're doing that, could I speak?
Yes, absolutely.
I was on the planning board for a number of years, and I went back through our codes before I met with Jeff on it, and I may have a little trouble with the details because it's been a month and a half, and that's longer than my buffer. But it's very interesting because in our codes, it talked both about parking lots and parking facilities, and those were different.
Yes.
And one had a permanent structure associated with it, and one did not.
That's
And so whether you tried to define it as a lot or a facility would lead you down one path or down the other path. So I could understand how there was, I will say, confusion about what is the proper interpretation.
Isn't there still supposed to only be 2 cars or a maximum of 4 for each resident in our building permit?
Yeah,
And that lot actually only had 2
yeah,
houses.
but a parking, again, I don't remember now whether it's parking facility or parking lot, was a permitted use. Now, I personally would agree with you that there were 4 scenarios that I came up with, how you could interpret it. And you could interpret it as an accessory use with an existing home, you could interpret it as a parking facility, you could interpret it as a parking lot. And I came up with 4 different ways to interpret it. In 3 out of those 4 ways, I felt it would have required a site plan review in front of the planning board.
Exactly.
And that would have been my recommendation. But I also saw how Jeff got where he got. But I think he was perfectly willing to go back and say it needed a site plan review.
If that wasn't brought to anybody's attention and they just started doing the work, it would have been done.
You're absolutely right. Our code is unclear because I can interpret it multiple ways and come up with
And I
different
think that's what
answers.
that petition
Our
sort of
code is
says.
unclear and fixing it is a good thing.
I think it's good for everybody.
That's all.
It's not,
Every neighborhood.
it's not just
Yeah.
the east side, it's everywhere.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I was just trying to provide some background about
What you read up on.
what we read.
Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
So generally speaking, when we revise our zoning codes, the new code is developed. It may come to the selectmen in order to, I think, to approve to put it on the
warrant.
on the warrant for the town meeting, but that's generally what happens. Some work is done, it takes a little while, come up with the right wording or the amended wording or whatever, and then at the next town meeting, we vote on that.
Correct. Yep.
So I would see,
And they did back out on that bill, by the way.
Right.
For now, I mean,
Yeah, we
yeah.
As far as we know.
yeah.
So-
My understanding is that doing this, I believe, is a function of the planning board. and the code enforcement officer. I believe as selectmen, we can say, we think this is a good thing, you should do it, but it is not our responsibility, or in fact, I don't even think we have the authority to do this. I think that authority rests with the planning board, but we certainly can be
Will you
consultants.
pass that along, or?
Yeah,
We can do that.
yeah, and we certainly have the charter to tell the planning board that we think they should do this, and then they can either do it or not do it, and if they don't do it, they're.
I mean, I know there's always
The
something,
planning board.
there's always a loophole somewhere
Yeah.
for something, and it's hard to just close
That's
these
what we
up.
found, so let's
Yeah.
close it.
But I agree, the plan, the zoning should be clarified, and so I would support, I haven't had time to read that in detail, but I would support that we charge the planning board with looking at the issue of parking in residential areas and come up with a much clearer
I know
ordinance.
one of the other thing was because it wasn't a paid parking lot, that made a difference.
Yeah, that was the other factor, you could consider it commercial or non-commercial, that was another decision point in interpreting the code. Frankly, the analogy, if Grover's puts in a parking lot for their customers, even though they don't charge the customers, to me, that's a commercial lot. And I think you could apply the same logic in instances like this.
Well, they were gonna take 32 people and
Yeah.
each put so much money in a pot.
But anyway, bottom line, the code is not clear, we should make it clear.
Yep.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, and in terms of this way, in terms of waiting, certainly in the comprehensive plan, as you deal with that someplace along the line, the issue gets taken care of. But in the interim, I think we need some discussion and consideration.
Yeah. Well, I think the zoning ordinances is the right place to take care of that, and asking the planning board to discuss that and come up with a recommendation is I think the right way to go, and probably will happen a little faster.
Yeah,
So,
that's the point.
good. Richard?
As we sit here, the Rock Tide's creating a parking lot in what used to be Donnie Page's house. That's right on Atlantic Ave. I don't know if that's legal or not legal, and I don't really care about that one. But since all these deficiencies have been, discrepancies have been identified, can't you put a moratorium until it's cleared up?
I would
Don't
think,
you have the authority to do that?
that must be within shoreline zoning down there, they'd have to have a permit.
Yeah, that's in a different district than
Well,
you are.
it's.
That would have to go
It's
before the
happened-
planning board, I would
it's
think.
happened. They had the bulldozer in last week.
I don't know, it's news to me,
But
we'll figure it
but
out.
can't you put a moratorium, or say for the interim period, it's gonna be this procedure?
I don't know offhand if we have the authority,
Who would know?
well, we can find out, we'll find
But
out for you.
other towns have put moratoriums on things until it's been resolved.
Yeah,
So it's gotta come from
I mean,
the Tom or-
no, I don't have law enforcement capability. The place to start is code enforcement officer.
Well, we're talking about permits to change
Right.
from a residence to a parking lot.
but,
So it starts with the code enforcement officer.
So he has the authority, well, can't you recommend that he stop until?
Oh, sure, I can recommend it, but
well,
We'll look into it and be able to report back at the next meeting.
Because a discussion
What's-
earlier this year was Rubicamp's place was gonna be bought and torn down for Squirrel Island parking. And 15 years ago, I lived in Yarmouth, and there's an island off of Yarmouth, Shebeck Island, it's actually part of Cumberland. And they tried to increase their parking. And I'm not sure about the legalities that were involved, but basically the state told them, since Shebeck Island was Cumberland, it was a Cumberland problem, and they created the Cumberland parking lot and the shuttle bus. And we're in a similar situation, Squirrel Island is part of
Southport, yeah.
Southport.
But fair question about the moratorium, we'll find out what the process is for that.
I think that would just take a lot of pressure off of a lot of people who are concerned about.
They're still looking for land, I mean,
Yeah. And with the branches closing their parking lot this year, they have a real sense of urgency.
Yeah.
The other aspect of that, if I may, is that someplace along the line, if you're gonna destroy a residence, you need a demolition permit, don't you?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so how, is that separate and apart from what we're talking about?
I believe it is, yes.
Well, that's another issue then, in terms of moratoriums and things along those lines. You know, you're taking a property, a residence off the tax roll for nothing else, okay? And I just think that might be something worth looking at too. I don't know what the authority you have on that is, but it seems like, you know, cease and desist in terms of demolition permits might be a way at least of protecting properties that already have houses on them. And that was the intent. This property has a house on it.
And a trailer.
And a trailer and that kind of thing. So it's just, there's another angle, I think, to pursue legitimately and legally. And if you give us some advice on that in terms of any of that, appreciate it.
Okay. Any other issues? All right. We're going to move into executive session. And we have the, yeah, is there another one where we talk about the rent? I have those things memorized. Okay, we are going to move into executive session. We're going to, under MRSA section 405-6D and 405-6C. So if everybody wants to leave the room. Okay. Oh, where'd everybody go? Okay, let the record show we came out of executive session at 8:10. There were no decisions made in executive session. So.
I move that we accept the spreadsheet in front of us for the accounting of the fish pier rent, which totals all of the items that are associated with the cost of the fish pier, and according to the lease that we have signed, rolls those up by a calculation into their new monthly rent. And that's what I move.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Okay, so rent is agreed upon, effective June 1st. All right. And we will take care of the outstanding items as discussed. So everybody is, we are all intent on continuing to improve the appearance of the building or finishing the appearance, so that will happen.
We look forward to working with you on it.
Great, thank you. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is the warrants.
Move we approve upon careful review.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the warrants. Any discussion? All in favor? Anything else to come before the board tonight? And shall we?
But a motion to adjourn.
I'll take that.
Second.
Motion to adjourn. There is no discussion. All in favor? Motion approved.